So we are in session number 6. And our goal for this study that we have, in addition to learning numbers, was to memorize John 3:16 through 21. And without looking at our phones or books or text cheaters. Okay. How much of this do you think that you could get? Okay, Levi, let's go until I'll let you go until you make a mistake, and then I'll tell you to stop. Good. For God. It says for.
And not his son into the world.
Okay, so you got that part right. For God sent not his son into the world to condemn the world.
But that the world condemned.
Nope.
No, the world through him. No.
That the world through him might be saved.
He that believeth on him is not saved.
Condemned.
Condemned, but he that
Believeth not.
believeth not is
Condemned.
condemned already, because he hath not believeth in the light of the only begotten Son of God.
Yep.
This is the light that.
And this is the condemnation.
Condemnation.
That light is come into the world.
Light.
Nope. Who loved darkness?
Satan.
And men love darkness rather than light.
Then light,
Be-
because they're
Mr.
people, for everyone that believeth,
Doeth.
doeth evil,
Hateth.
the light, neither cometh to the light, lest he should be.
I believe it's manifest. Yeah, should be made manifest.
Manifest. He that doeth.
Truth.
Truth come to the
Light.
light, that his light may be made
Manifest.
and
That they are wrought in God. So at the end of this session, not the end of this session, but at the end of the goal in numbers, we're going to talk about what this means and see if everyone understands what the latter part means. So very, very good. Very good. We're going to do as usual, our very brief recap on numbers. What was numbers about so far? Yes, good job, Shelley. Can anyone name people of the 12 tribes? Wait your turn. Yes. Yes.
Jacob. It's hard.
No. Yes. What's your
Judah,
Yes. What's your name? No. Yes.
Reuben,
Yes.
Simeon,
It's already been said. Asher. We said Asher.
Gad,
Yes. And the only two that I think we're missing is Manasseh and Ephraim. So Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Gad, Asher, Dan, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. Okay. We also talked about the arrangements of the camps, right? Because they were supposed to be true north, true south, true east, and true west. They did form a cross. We're actually going to talk about that today. One of the other items we talked about, the Passover. What was the Passover? Anybody? And where did they do them, or where did they do that at? Where were they were what state, or not state, what nation were they in? Yes, good job. Okay, we talked about their tabernacle. What was God's presence presented as during the daytime?
Wait, what?
The presence of God was manifest over the tabernacle in the daytime in the form of a, yes, and at nighttime, yes, fire.
Yeah.
So when we talk about how God provided for them for their food and their substance, how did God provide for them while they were in the wilderness wanderings? Yes. What was that?
Man, of food that they didn't know, so they go and
Right. That's right.
What is it, bread?
That's right. Because they didn't know what it is. Okay. Then we talked about the 12 scouts that went out into the land of Canaan, right? They were sent to the promised land. What was the report that they got back from the land about the promised land? What was it like? The promised land. What was the promised land like? 10 of them didn't like it. That is 100% correct, because they were afraid of the giants that lived in the land. But it was a land flowing with milk and honey. It had big grapes. It had all kinds of cool stuff about it. The Nephilim. Very good.
brothers?
Yes. And then we talked about the people having an uprising against Moses, where they chose to, the Levites chose to go to the Levites. There was members of the Levites. His name was Korah. He felt like Moses was taking too much on. And so he questioned essentially God's role in choosing Moses, saying that Moses has taken on too much of a task, and that because they're Levites, they should be able to do the same things that Moses is doing. And do you remember what happened when he says, we'll let God show us who are the correct individuals? He opened up a giant sinkhole, and they all died inside the sinkhole. Only the specific people that were in that tribe. And that puts us directly into where we're at tonight in Numbers chapter 18. Lily, I'm going to need you to go upstairs, sweetheart. That's okay, baby. I think you should go upstairs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with chapter 18. And we talked about this a little bit already. We left off on this. This was the heave offering that Uncle Charlie had that question about. So, and this is thine, the heave offering of the chapter 18, verse 11. And this is thine, the heave offering of their gift, with all the wave offerings of the children of Israel. I have given them unto thee, and to thy sons and to thy daughters with thee, by a statute forever. Every one that is clean in thy house shall eat of it, all the best of the oil and all the best of the wine and of the wheat, the first fruits of them which they shall offer unto the Lord, them have I given thee. And whatsoever is first ripe in the land, which they shall bring unto the Lord, shall be thine. Every one that is clean in thine house shall eat of it. Everything devoted in Israel shall be thine. Everything that openeth the matrix in all flesh, which they bring unto the Lord, whether it be of men or beasts, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shall thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts thou shalt redeem. And those that are to be redeemed from a month old shalt thou redeem, according to thine estimation, for the money of 5 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. But the firstling of a cow, or the firstling of a sheep, or the firstling of a goat, thou shalt not redeem, for they are holy. Thou shalt sprinkle their blood upon the altar, and shall burn their fat for an offering made by fire, for a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the flesh of them shall be thine, as the wave breast and the right shoulder are thine. All the heave offerings of the holy things which the children of Israel offer unto the Lord have I given thee. and thy sons and thy daughters with thee by a statute forever. It is a covenant of salt forever before the Lord unto thee, and to thy seed with thee. And the Lord spake unto Aaron, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance among the children of Israel. So all of the tribes that were in Israel all got the inheritance. They would pass down the different areas in the land and the food, so on and so forth. The Levites got nothing. Their reward was that they got to spend all their time with God. So, and then the rest of the population gave them a tenth. Moving on, verse 21. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh to the tabernacle of congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as a heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, when you take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then you shall offer up a heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. And this your heave offering shall be reckoned unto you as though it were the corn of the threshing floor, and as the fullness of the winepress. Thus ye also shall offer a heave offering unto the Lord of all your tithes, which ye receive of the children of Israel, and you shall give thereof the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. Out of all your gifts you shall offer every heave offering to the Lord, of all the best thereof, even of the hallowed part thereof out of it. Therefore thou shalt say unto them, when you have heaved the best thereof from it, then it shall be counted unto the Levites as the increase of the threshing floor, and as the increase of the winepress, and ye shall eat it in every place, ye and your households, for it is your reward for your service in the tabernacle of the congregation. And ye shall bear no sin by reason of it. When ye have heaved from it the best, when you have heaved from it the best of it, neither shall ye pollute the holy things of the children of Israel, lest you die. So I did pull a slide here that I had made for last week that we just didn't get a chance to get to about the heave offering. This information is from gotquestions.org. It's a Bible-based website. And you'll see here just in the first line, it says a heave offering was a way of presenting one's offering to the Lord. Appears in the Old Testament along with burnt offerings, grain offerings, and all the other offerings along with that. It says only a few translations, such as the King James Version, call it the heave offering. Most translations it's considered simply an offering presenting it to the Lord. The heave of the heave offering is simply an upward movement. It could refer to the generic movement of lifting or heaving the sacrifice towards the altar, or it could refer to lifting up or separating a portion of the sacrifice from the rest. So when we talk about heaving, that's going to be going up like that. So like I said before, if we were against something and we were heaving it this way, it would leave a trail of blood. And wave offering, if you're waving something, you would wave it from left to right. We would get something that looked like that, right? It would be blood splatter in the shape of a cross. Yeah. So that gets us into Numbers 19. This is a little bit of a peculiar chapter. Talks about the red heifer. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, this is the ordinance of the law which the Lord hath commanded. Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein there is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. And ye shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp. And one shall slay her before his face, and Eleazar the priest shall take of her blood with his finger, and sprinkle of her blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times. And one shall burn the heifer in his sight, her skin with her flesh and her blood, and with her dung she shall burn. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer. So this is an image of what the red heifer is. It was thought to be extinct. It was a special cow used for the ceremonial purposes. The way that it's described is they're supposed to have a red hue over every part of them, a red hue on their hooves. It's like an all red cow. I'm gonna put that away. Your phone? Oh,
I think I know what you're talking about.
let's hear it, Levi.
Aren't they?
No,
I thought they were the last
Oh, wait.
no. So we've talked about that group called the Temple Institute. So this image is taken from them. They found a way through cattle and stuff like that. Wait 1 second. What's up? Come on. Come on. It's so good. No. So this guy is employed by the Temple Institute. This group of people are trying to gather all of the utensils that are inside the temple. So when they do reclaim the grounds, that they can start rebuilding. What's up? So that's the red heifer. So after they do the sacrifice, this is what then transpires after that. Then the priest shall wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his flesh in water. And afterward he shall come into the camp, and the priest shall be unclean until the evening. And he that burneth her shall wash his clothes in water, and bathe his flesh in water, and shall be unclean until the evening. And a man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and lay them up without the camp in a clean place. And it shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel for a water of separation. It is a purification for sin. And he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. And it shall be unto the children of Israel and unto the stranger that sojourneth among them for a statute forever. We're going to get into some more rules about the law. It says, he that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day. And on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean. Whatsoever toucheth the dead body of any man that is dead, and purifieth not himself, defileth the tabernacle of the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean, his uncleanliness is yet upon him. This is the law. When a man dieth in a tent, all that come into the tent, and all that is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. And every open vessel which hath no covering bound upon it is unclean. And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with a sword in the open fields, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. And for an unclean person they shall take the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereto in a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop, and dip it in the water, and sprinkle it upon the tent, and upon all the vessels, and upon the persons that were there, and upon him that toucheth a bone, or one slain, or a dead, or a grave. And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall purify himself and wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at evening. But the man that shall be unclean, and shall not purify himself, that soul shall be cut off from among the congregation, because he hath defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of separation hath not sprinkled upon him, he is unclean. And it shall be a perpetual statute unto them, that he that sprinkleth the water of the separation shall wash his clothes, and he that toucheth the water of separation shall be unclean until evening. And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean, and the soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until evening. Chapter 20. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and Aaron. And the people chode with Moses, saying, and spake, saying, would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord? And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into the wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have ye made us come up out of Egypt, to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. So this sounds pretty common for the Israelites, right? They're complaining that Moses has brought them out into this wilderness to die, when in reality, they rejected the promised land. They rejected God's promise for them. And so now a generation of them is going to die in the wilderness. But all of them are upset because now they're saying there's no water. And they just saw Moses' sister die, Miriam. So Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly into the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water. And thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock, so thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. Do you guys remember we read this? When we were reading this in the New Testament, do you guys remember this or no? Moses was told to speak to the rock. He hit it, right? And so there is a guy by the name of Ron White who was a nurse anesthetist out of Texas that would save up his money to go do like junior archaeology type trips and go travel the Promised Land or travel Jerusalem and things like that. He believes he's found this rock. And here's the image of the rock that he believed is found, because it's in the area and the location at which they were told to go. And so this is that verse. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation before the rock, and he said unto them, hear me now, you rebels. Must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly. And the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. So you guys we picked up what was told there, right? Moses was told to speak to the rock. He chose not to. He hit the rock. This is the rock up close. I don't know if you can see that image there. This is that guy Ron White's expedition. And you could see, I'm wondering if it'll let me zoom in here. Yeah, you could see at the face of it where it looks like water has been carved, like grooved out of the rock. And it happens to be, there's a bunch of other maps and stuff that go along with this. But it's really cool, because if you look at it, this guy has traveled. He's the one who showed the wagon wheels in the Red Sea. Remember how we looked at the coral formations of the Red Sea? He was the guy who was just a regular guy that had a huge interest in the Bible and wanted to go find these other facts in the Bible. So,
Come get it.
if we wanted to look as a reference on where this rock was an opportunity to be a symbol for Christ, remember how Christ first needed to be struck, and then the second time he would only have to speak to him. That was what the analogy that you would gain from this is. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 tells us this is the New Testament. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. So Paul lays it out pretty clearly that the rock that was in the Old Testament was Christ. And he is where we get that same spiritual drink from. So that gets us into chapter 20. And Moses sent messengers from Kadesh unto the king of Edom. Thus saith thy brother Israel, thou knowest all the travail that he hath befallen us, how our fathers went down into Egypt, and we have dwelt in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers. And when we cried unto the Lord, he heard our voice and sent an angel, and hath brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we are in Kadesh, a city in the uttermost of thy border. Let us pass, I pray thee, through thy country. We will not pass through the fields or through the vineyards, neither will we drink any of the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway. We will not turn to the right hand or to the left until we have passed thy borders. And Edom said unto him, thou shalt not pass by me, lest I come out against thee with the sword. And the children of Israel said unto him, we will go by the highway. And if I and my cattle drink of thy water, then we will pay for it, or I will pay for it. I will only, without doing anything else, go through on my feet. And he said, thou shalt not go through. And Edom came out against him with much people and with a strong hand. Thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his border, wherefore Israel turned away from him. So they have to take a second path. God has them on this direction. They have to go a different route. We're going to learn about that route now. And the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came unto Mount Hor. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor, by the coast of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I have given unto the children of Israel, because ye rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up unto the Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son. And Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, and shall die there. And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up into Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. And Moses stripped Aaron of his garments, and put them upon Eleazar his son. And Aaron died there in the top of the mount. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mount. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel. And when King Arad, the Canaanite, which dwelt in the south, heard tell that Israel came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners. And Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities. And he called the name of that place Hormah. And they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom. And the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. And the people spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this light bread, speaking of the manna. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he taketh away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the people said unto Moses, and the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he look upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it on a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. So this is an image of that serpent. And this is how it would have been mounted, right? I have both these images here because I'm pretty sure all of you guys recognize that symbol on the right, which is actually the symbol for commerce. The symbol from Asclepius, or whatever it's supposed to be, is that symbol on the right. Asclepius is Greek mythology where they drew in inference from this interaction with Moses. So it started as the one on the left, became the one on the far right, and then this is the symbol for commerce that they have, that they use on for all medicine, when you see it on the ambulances and things like that. Do you guys remember what a snake was an image for? What did it represent? When John the Baptist saw the Sadducees and Pharisees coming out to the wilderness when he was baptizing people, he said, brood of vipers, called them a bunch of snakes, right? He was referring to them as sinners. And they were like, people couldn't believe that he was saying that these religious leaders were the sinners, because they didn't come out for repentance. They came out because they were going to drill them questions and they cared more about themselves. We learned all that. So the serpent itself is a symbol of sin. And so we have, for a very long period of time, it would be hard to understand why Moses would put a symbol of sin on this staff or this cross and have people look at this and be healed. But if we were to flip over to John chapter 3, which we all know John chapter 3, verse 16, right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, right? What's the verse before that? Jesus speaking. Art thou a master of Israel, and knowest not these things? Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and you receive not our witness. If I have told you earthly things, and you believe not, how shall you believe, if I tell you of heavenly things? And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. What Moses was doing was a form of symbolism of Christ on the cross. Christ bore our sins on the cross. That serpent image that's on there was imagery, and Christ utilized it, explaining him what the depth of that meaning was. So there's that. And that gets us into chapter 21. And the children of Israel, or continuing in chapter 21, and the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Uboth, and they journeyed from Oboth and pitched at Jerbearim, and in the wilderness which is before Moab, toward the sun rising. From thence they removed and pitched in the valley of Zered. From thence they removed and pitched in the other side of Arnon, which is in the wilderness that cometh out of the coasts of the Amorites. For Arnon is in the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Wherefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, what he did in the Red Sea, and in the brooks of Arnon, and at the stream of the brooks that goeth down to the dwelling of Ar, and lieth upon the border of Moab. And from thence they went to Beer, that is, the well whereof the Lord spake unto Moses. Gather the people together, and I will give them water. Then Israel sang this song, Spring up, O well, sing ye unto it. The princes digged the well, the nobles of the people digged it by the direction of the lawgiver with their staves. And from the wilderness they went to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nahalal, and from Nahalal to Bamoth, and from Bamoth in the valley that is in the country of Moab to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeheshimon. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along the king's highway until we pass thy borders. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border, but Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword and possessed his land from Arnon to Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and taken all his land out of his hand. And even unto Arnon, wherefore they that speak in the Proverbs say, come into Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and prepared, for there is a fire gone out of Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It hath consumed Ar of Moab, and the lords of the high places of Arnon. Woe to thee, Moab! Thou art undone, O people of Shemosh. He hath given his sons that escaped and his daughters into captivity unto Sihon, king of the Amorites. We have shot at them. Heshbon is perished, even unto Dibon. And we have laid them waste, even unto Nophath, which reacheth up into Medeba. Thus Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they took the villages thereof and drove out the Amorites that were there, and they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And the Lord said unto Moses, fear him not, for I have delivered him into thy hand, and all his people, and his land, and thou shalt do to him as thou did unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt in Heshbon. So they smote him, his sons, and all his people, until there was none left him alive, and they possessed his land. Do you guys remember who Og was, the king of Bashan? He was a giant. He was one of the giants. He was like 16 feet tall or something like that. He was one of those descendants. So here we see where God's telling them not to fear. God gives them the strength. God wins the battle for them. And remember how they were so worried about the giants? They're actually seeing that they could smoke them because God's in control. And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side of the Jordan by Jericho. And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was sore afraid of the people because there were many. And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now shall this company lick up all that are around us, as the ox licketh up the grass of the field? And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at that time. He sent messengers therefore unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there is a people come out of Egypt. Behold, they cover thy face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessed is blessed, and that he whom thou cursed is cursed. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand, and they came unto Balaam and spake unto him the words of Balak. So we're going to learn something very interesting right now. Balaam was a prophet who spoke to God, but he was a prophet for hire. He did something wrong. He was doing wrong things. So this king who sees that Israel's wiping out all these nations goes to one of their prophets and says, I'm going to send you with all this money. I'm going to send these people to go talk to you about cursing the land of Israel. And so Balaam responds. And he said unto them, lodge here tonight, and I will bring you word again, as the Lord shall speak unto me. And the princes of Moab abode with Balaam. And God came unto Balaam and said, what men are these with thee? And Balaam said unto God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent them unto me, saying, Behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the earth. Come now, curse me them, peradventure I shall be able to overcome them, and drive them out. And God said unto Balaam, Thou shalt not go with them, thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed. And Balaam rose up in the morning, and said unto the princes of Balak, Get you into your land, for the Lord refuseth to give me leave to go with you. And the princes of Moab rose up, and they went into Balak, and said, Balaam refuseth to come with us. And Balak sent yet again princes more honorable than they. So the instruction was given from God to Balaam that it was a no-go. You're out. You can't go. You're not going to curse these people. These people that come back, they tell their king Balak what's happened. He says, go, but go with the highest nobles that we have, princes, finely dressed, you know what I mean? As a symbol of wealth. So these people show up, and they came to Balaam and said to him, Thus saith Balak, the son of Zippor, Let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me, for I will promote thee unto very great honor, and I will do whatever thou sayest unto me. Come therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people. And Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, If Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord, my God, to do less or more. So that's a good answer. But what's he do? Now, therefore, I pray you, tarry ye also here a night, that I may know what the Lord will say unto me more. And God came unto Balaam at night and said unto him, If the men come to call thee, rise up and go with them. But yet the word which I shall say unto thee, thou shalt do. And Balaam rose up in the morning, and he saddled his ass, and he went with the princes of Moab. Then God's anger was aroused because he went. And the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between the vineyards, and with a wall on the side and a wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam's anger was aroused, and he struck the donkey with his staff. That's where it gets real interesting. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? This is the donkey speaking. And what's even more interesting is that Balaam's going to talk to her. And Balaam said to the donkey, Because you have abused me, I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you. So the donkey said to Balaam, Am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden ever since I became yours to this day? Was I ever disposed to do this to you? And he said, No. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed his head and fell flat on his face. And the angel of the Lord said to him, Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to stand against you because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I would have also killed you by now and let her live. And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I did not know you stood in the way against me. Now, therefore, if it displeases you, I will turn back. Then the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, Go with the men, but only the word that I speak to you, that you shall speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. Now when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him in the city of Moab, which is on the border at the Arnon, the boundary of the territory. Then Balak said to Balaam, did I not earnestly send to you, calling for you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? And Balaam said to Balak, look, I have come to you. Now, have I any power at all to say anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that I must speak. So Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kirjath Huzoth. Then Balak offered oxen and sheep, and he sent some to Balaam and to the princes who were with him. So it was the next day that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal, that from there he might observe the extent of the people. So Balak took Balaam to Baal's, basically, remember Baal was, they worshiped the sun god, and he did other things, and his name was Baal. There was Baal worshipers. We learn more about them in Isaiah, or Elijah, with Elijah. And it says that this is where he took him to show the extent of the people. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken, and Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram. And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by thy burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure the Lord will come to meet me, and whatsoever he showeth me, I will tell thee. And when he went to a high place, and God met Balaam and said unto him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth, and said, return to Balak, and thus thou shalt speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab. And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, hath brought me from Aram, out of the mountains of the east, saying, come curse me, Jacob, and come defy Israel. How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord has not defied? For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, and the number of the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like his. And Balak said unto Balaam, what have you done to me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether. And he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord has put in my mouth? And we'll stop there. What we'll see in the reading is that Balaam does this 3 more times. And the last time that he does it, there's something very unique that happens. And we'll pick that up next week. But for now, we'll just shut it off. And we'll go ahead and close in prayer.